As a female mechanical engineer, my daily life involves constantly being questioned about things I specialize in. This didn't happen to me, but a childhood friend of mine used to ride a unicycle. He later worked in construction, and one day at a job site, they found an old unicycle at a house they were working on. The other workers tried to ride it and fell instantly. My friend casually examined it, pretending like he had never seen one before, and remarked that it didn't seem too hard to ride. Everyone laughed at him when he said he thought he could do it. Eventually, someone wagered $100 that he couldn't. He immediately hopped on and rode smoothly down the street. Not exactly the same, but years ago I attempted to learn piano. I bought a keyboard and mastered just the first movement of Moonlight Sonata, and that was it. Around the same time, I started a new job as a chef at an upscale hotel. After about a month, I attended the company Christmas party where a piano was sitting in the room. The head chef noticed me and, laughing, called me out saying, "Look at Spliff Lizard, you definitely can't play the piano." I decided to act confident and said, "Actually, I've been playing for years." He challenged me. "Oh yeah? Play Moonlight Sonata then." The situation couldn't have worked out better. I played the one piece I knew, leaving him speechless. No one there ever found out that was the only song I could play. Colors. It might sound odd, but anytime a color is mentioned and someone tries to correct me, it's frustrating. I've been a commercial printing press operator for 2 decades, so I can distinguish incredibly slight variations in shades that most people wouldn't notice. Edit, the upvote button, is orange. The infamous dress, it's blue and black. I wouldn't call myself a chess master. I'd probably rank around 1500. But I've been playing since I was a kid and was the best player in my middle school chess club. The owner of the pool hall, where my troublemaking friends and I spent time, started ranting about how clueless young people are. He bet that none of us knew how to play chess. I beat him with ease, and then did it again in a rematch. This will show my age, but I was in college when Halo first came out. I was never much of a gamer, but my boyfriend at the time, I'm a woman, was obsessed with it. So we played a lot. Even entered some college tournaments and performed pretty well. Fast forward years later, my husband and I were at a house party when someone turned on an Xbox and needed a 4th player for Halo. My husband volunteered me. The guys weren't thrilled, but let me join anyway. I annihilated them. Eventually, they ganged up 3 against 1, and I still dominated. Soon, the entire party was gathered around watching. It was a fantastic night. With a history degree, I've learned that practically everyone assumes they know more than you do. It never stops. History repeats itself, and those who study it are left helplessly watching the cycle continue. Medieval Fair 2002. A carnival worker running the fencing attraction picked me from the crowd, probably because I was tall, and challenged me to a free duel against the master. Most people probably fell for the trick, since fencing isn't common, but when he handed me a saber, I absolutely demolished him. I have perfect pitch. It's not something I can switch off. Notes are as obvious to me as colors. In junior high, my music teacher was explaining that Mozart had perfect pitch. He played a note on the piano and asked, "Can any of you do that?" I honestly had no idea it was rare, so I raised my hand. He smirked and called on me, only to be stunned when I answered correctly, naming the note an octave. Assuming it was luck, he tried again. Same result. He had me turn around, played chords, sequences, even used both hands, and I got them all right. Eventually, I replicated a melody just by listening. That was the day I learned that perfect pitch isn't common. My homeowners association's property management company insisted I had received emails that never reached me. I asked them to provide proof. They confidently claimed I must have gotten them. At the time, I was a software engineer who had just completed an enterprise email delivery system, similar to an internal version of Constant Contact. I knew the CAN-SPAM Act regulations by heart. Then, the particularly arrogant property manager said, "I know how email works. You wouldn't understand." At that moment, I internally cracked my knuckles and proceeded to systematically explain how email delivery and tracking function. After a thorough 5-minute breakdown of my credentials and why I was certain those emails were never sent, the HOA board agreed to waive the fines. This happens all the time. I spent 7 years working in manufacturing in China before returning 3 years ago. Now, people constantly try to explain to me why bringing manufacturing back to the US would be easy. I tell them they are absolutely out of their minds. In high school, I was the reigning city fencing champion for both the youth and adult divisions. My school introduced a fencing unit in PE, and the instructor they brought in was my actual coach. During class, my coach had me demonstrate techniques, but one classmate didn't realize I wasn't picked randomly. He started trash talking, saying I looked clueless and he could probably beat me in a duel. He was decent for a beginner, but as soon as we had a match, I completely dismantled him without letting him score a single point. I took a bit of petty joy in using it as a practice session for parries and ripostes. My coach later complimented him for doing well against the city champ. His attitude changed immediately. I used to travel the world playing fighting games competitively. I never reached the top rankings, but I was solid. One of my strongest games was Super Street Fighter 2. One day, I stopped at a bar after work where an SNES was set up with SF2. I casually played random characters while sipping my drink. Then, a guy walked in, bragging loudly to his date about being the best SF2 player ever. I challenged him to a match and offered him a free drink if he won 2 out of 3. 12 matches later, I was completely drunk, and he finally gave up and left. No memory of how I got home that night. I hold a PhD in genetics and have published multiple papers on how viral vectors spread in populations. Yet, I constantly deal with anti-vaxxers and COVID conspiracy theorists. It's exhausting. The worst? Someone at a social event found out I worked in a genetics lab and genuinely asked, if 2 white Americans have a baby in China, will it be born Asian? I was so shocked I spit out my drink. I've been wrapping Christmas presents since childhood, channeling my perfectionist tendencies into beautifully wrapped gifts. Fast forward to my late 20s at a company Christmas party, where I unknowingly entered a blindfolded gift wrapping contest. My competitors boasted about their skills, but I sat silently, knowing they were in for a show. As soon as the timer started, I flew through the task, finishing before anyone else had even cut their paper. The result? A flawlessly wrapped box. I won a $10 Starbucks gift card and was crowned Rap Master. Trivia. I have a mind full of random facts. A coworker once dared me to attend trivia night at the Legion. I won so decisively that I'm now unofficially banned from returning. This is kind of the opposite experience. As a PE teacher, I once explained concussion symptoms to a student's father after she hit her head in class. I went through all the details, only to later find out he was an ER doctor. He patiently listened to my entire lecture without saying a word. I wasn't an expert in chemistry, but after a middle school teacher disliked me, I had to work extra hard in the subject. Years later, a high school bully stole my exam. When the school accused me of failing on purpose, I challenged them to give me a new test on the spot. I aced it. Turns out the bully had bragged about throwing my test in the trash. I was casually challenged to a shooting match, not realizing my competitor had no idea I had been in national-level air rifle competitions. We went to the range the next day where I obliterated him. He owed me a fancy bottle of whiskey. I'm no push-up expert, but working in fitness for 20 years made a party challenge easy money. After winning the first bet, 2 more guys tried and lost. Walked away with an easy $60.